What's going on, friends and family? Thank you so much for joining Every Day's a Saturday. I'm your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey guys, another great day, another great episode. I'm super excited for my next guest. She is a United States Marine veteran, and she is currently traveling and making music. Let's meet our fellow next hero, Barabara Sim. There she is. What's going on, Barbara?
Hey,
Welcome, welcome.
thank
So
you for.
let's go ahead and get to know Barbara Sim and get to know why you joined the Marine Corps, when you joined the Marine Corps, and how life is treating you now.
Uh,
Don't be
um,
afraid to give us the long version too, the long way home.
yeah, I've never been much of a talker, but I'll do my best. Um, I joined the Marine Corps in 2005, and I actually was in the Army National Guard first. So I did split up between my junior senior year of high school, and then I literally went to Army boot camp right after I did my cheerleading camp that summer, and then I went to my senior year, and I got injured in cheerleading. I missed my AIT date for the Army, and they gave me a general discharge and told me to come back in a year. And I went down to Florida, um, and kind of puttered around a little bit for a year there. And I was like, no, I want to be in the military. So I went back, and I was actually going to join the Air Force because I wanted to be an Air Force, or I mean, an aerospace physiologist. I wanted to work for NASA. And I went in, and they weren't taking prior service. So I couldn't join the Air Force. And I walked out of the Air Force office, and there's a Marine standing there smoking. And I legit at the time thought that only men could join the Marine Corps because I thought it was like all grunts. And the guy was like, "Are you joining the Air Force?" And I'm like, "No, they won't take me. I'm prior service." And he was like, "Well, come on in. We'll take you." So I went into the Marine Corps
Of
recruitment
course.
office, and he showed me all the videos of all like the MOSs and stuff. And I'd already had my ASVAB, and I scored well enough to get anything I wanted. So I wanted to be Intel, public relations, or logistics were my top three choices. And I got logistics. So I went back to boot camp because, Marines, you have to go to boot camp again. So I did boot camp in June 2005. And then I got stationed in Okinawa.
Red Patcher,
And
right? Were you a
yeah,
Red Patcher or no? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, 0481 Red Patcher. Yeah, landing
Okay.
support specialist. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
So it was
a
like,
I was a 3051 supply.
awesome. Everybody thinks I'm supply when I say logistics. I'm like, no, I was a Red
No,
Patcher.
yeah, nope. Definitely different. Yep.
Yeah. I was like,
A
I
lot of people
cannot
do
get.
get that mixed up. I
What's that?
said a lot of people do get it mixed up.
Yeah. I was like, no, I'm not the cool people that can get you all the free stuff because that's what
Facts.
everybody thought supply was.
Sometimes, I mean, it depends on if you're in the right supply. I mean, my first unit, we were dealing with nothing but little nuts and bolts. The
Mm,
second unit I was dealing with, it was all stuff for when you deploy. When we deployed, so it was all the GP tents, uniforms, uh, plates, all kinds of stuff.
yeah. When were you in?
I was in from 2000 to 2004.
Okay. So you got
Yep,
out right
went
before
over
I got
to
in.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, went over to the good old Middle East in 2003, and then spent like I think I was there for what some January to July. So yeah, 6 7 months, and then I got out. I wasn't gonna stay in because they were about to send me right back. And at that time, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know if I really want to go back there.
Yeah. Feel you. Yeah. As soon as I was checking into my unit in Okinawa, they were like, "You ready to go to Iraq?" And I'm like, I mean, sure. I don't really have a choice though. It was funny
Right?
because when I joined, my recruiter was like, "Oh no, you're not going to deploy. You're good." So I called him from Iraq and was like, "Guess where I'm at." And he
Geez,
was
so
like,
you
"Oh
didn't? It didn't take you long, huh?
no."
So you got
No.
sent to Oki right off the jump.
Yeah.
Wow, that was your first duty station. Sheesh.
Hmm.
A lot of people, that's kind of like, you don't usually get that kind of right off rip, but
Yeah. I put
that's where they sent
overseas.
you.
Me and
Oh,
my
you
buddy
wanted to go
in boot.
overseas? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was hoping I'd get Hawaii, and me and my friend put overseas, and she got Hawaii, and I got Okinawa. So
Oh,
still haven't been to Hawaii.
sheesh. Well, that's a
Yeah.
bum.
I
You
actually
didn't
really
really.
liked it. I like Japanese culture, so
Yeah,
it was really pretty.
yeah. I've heard some really cool things and some really crazy stories about Japan. So, uh,
Yeah, I'm not going to share them on a recorded podcast.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't. It's one of those things that probably should stay in Japan.
I
Uh,
was lucky though, like, when I got back from Iraq and I got sent over to K5 on Kadena. It was like a detachment. Um, I was the only Lance Corporal with a driver's license, so I got to go get a car. So that kind of opened up things a little bit more for me, where I got to explore the island a little bit more, and that was probably my favorite part. I went up to
I heard
Okuma.
stories. I heard stories about if you bought a car over there, it just stays there. It's just a car. You get it, and it just kind of rotates through to the next person. Is that kind of how it was
Yeah,
for you? You bought it from someone else that was leaving.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a lot. There was like a car lot on base of like just used cars, and it was like I think I got it like a Cadillac or something. It was like an old school grandma car, but it
Like
was
a
actually
boat,
the
one of
first.
those old caddies that were just like that kind of float in the air while you're driving.
It was
My
nice.
grandma had one of those. Ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, it was nice. Though. It was nice getting to drive that little bit of freedom as a lance corporal.
Yeah, right. I heard there
Yeah,
was there were certain curfews too, and like different. I don't know how they did it, but there were certain curfews, and you had to have a card or something to get back in on base. And if you didn't have the right color card during that time, you'd get in trouble or something to that effect. Is
yeah.
that
The red card, gold card.
pretty accurate?
Yeah,
Ah, yeah,
yeah.
that's crazy.
Well, there was like, I think there was a lot of like off base incidences that prompted that. And I remember I
Well,
got stuck.
I
I got
not
stuck off base
surprised.
one night, and I couldn't get back on base. And I tried to bribe a honcho driver, like a taxi driver, to put me in his trunk so I could get back on base. And he wouldn't do it. He like ran away. He was like, no, no, no. I'm like, fine. So I literally slept on the sidewalk off base that night and then got back on base in the morning. I wasn't alone. I was a
Nice.
friend. But
I've heard of stories about people who have to get in the trunk or definitely have to sneak their way in because it's past that time
yeah,
and they're making it trying to make it in with the people that had the right card. It's
yeah,
too funny. With Marines, when there's a will, there's a way. And you'll never be surprised what the Marine will do,
yeah,
especially for some
yeah,
liberty, right? A little extra time out and about.
yeah. We woke up, we were sleeping on some steps in front of a business building, and we woke up to some Japanese business guys like, hello, get out of the way.
Sweeping you away with their get out of here.
Yeah. No, they're so
Damn
polite.
Americans.
They were like,
they,
they were
they're
like
probably always like,
almost apologizing
yeah,
to us for being in their way. They were just, yeah. So yeah, good
yeah,
time.
definitely not the same culture as it here in the US, especially where I live in California, where it's
Yeah,
just nothing but rude people. You know what I mean? They see you on the curb, they might kick you.
yeah. No, everybody was really kind. At least the ones I came across.
Nice. That's great. So how long were you in Japan before you ended up having to deploy?
I was checking into my unit in Okinawa, and that was in. So I spent a little bit more time at MCT because I broke my feet. So I had to
Mm.
get recycled.
Feet? Or you're just
Yeah,
your foot?
my feet. So I I broke my left foot. I like fractured all my metatarsals on a hump. Like I was like a buck 20, and my pack was like 100 pounds, and my body just my feet just cracked. And then I put a boot on and I was recycled, and then I jumped out the back of a 7 ton with all my gear on, and both my feet broke that
Mm.
time, and so I had to get recycled again. And then all I had left after that was like the 10-mile hike. So I finished that and then I got to go to the fleet. So I was like, I barely made it.
No kidding, my gosh, you literally limped through it. Like, I mean, oh my gosh, yeah, you're lucky you didn't get medevac. Not medevac, but medical discharge from the second time. They're
I
probably like,
know. And I
golly.
remember I was, when I was hiking, um, I was like going and going and I just kept going lower and lower and lower. And then I'm like crawling and I'm still trying to keep up. And the guy was like, the sergeant came over. He was like, "The fuck are you doing, Sim?" I was like, "My feet hurt kind of bad." I'm just trying to keep going. And they put me in the back of the 7-ton and I took my shoes off and they were like just swollen. So I did try to keep going, but it didn't work. Thankfully, I got to get through it and I went to the fleet. And then that was in like June, I think, of 06. And then 2 months later, we were training in Fuji. Um, and then I got to Iraq in August of 06 and then left
Wow.
in March of 07. And I was in Al Asad. I worked on a flight line. And then in January of 07, I did the Lioness, which is they're called Female Engagement Team now. So I did a month of that in Haklania. They attached me to 2-3 Marines.
Can you explain what that is? I That's even new to me. I've never even heard of that. So I'm sure a lot of people out there have no clue.
Yeah, Lioness is a group of female. You have to volunteer for it, and you get like 2 weeks of training, and then they send you out to the grunts, and you get attached to a grunt unit, and then you search the females and children when you're like at traffic control points or like cordon searches, like when they go house to house, and they'll like clear the house, and then you go back behind them and like search the females and children. It was more like just because the men weren't allowed to touch the women just for like cultural differences. So
Especially, yeah, especially over there. She's
yeah, so it was helpful to have the women where we could search the females and still be like respectful of their culture, I guess. But they would hide a lot of stuff on the women, because they didn't think anybody would look in their rooms. So yeah, that's basically what I did. I just searched females and
searched a whole
children.
bunch of people, huh? Did you
Yeah,
ever come across finding stuff in your when you were doing searches, or not
yeah, we
really?
found like a lot of um, like contraband would be like American money, and like fake IDs and like sniper rounds and like little things like that. I never personally found any like bombs or things like that, but there was, I was one of 2 females in my unit, and the other female, she went into the group after me. Her group replaced me. Um, so we kind of crossed paths at Haditha Dam, but she went down to Barwana, which was right across the river from Haklania, and she was actually killed by a suicide bomber on February 7th, 2007. So there was a suicide bomber. It was a female, and from the stories, I've talked to a few people that were there. They said there was a female in a truck that drove through the TCP and exploded. And there was like 8 Iraqis that were killed, a sergeant major and Corporal Jennifer Parcell. And it was
Wow.
so crazy because um, I met a guy that was there like years later in 2012, and I'd heard like stories about how everything had happened, but he was actually there, so he got to tell me, exactly how it went down, and he was there. He actually was standing behind the sergeant major, and was like, I guess he said he was protected. Anyway, I'm not going to go
Wow.
into all the details, but it's pretty crazy, and it hit our unit hard because like we didn't expect to lose anybody on our deployment, and losing one of the 2 females, I think, hit some of the guys really hard. But
Yeah, I can only imagine. Now,
yeah,
was
when they
that
told us,
hard being females in a predominant, with the whole, obviously you're probably two females to like 20 males at least, probably, or so, or more.
Yeah, when we got back from Iraq, we got more females into the unit, but I'd been sent over to K5 where I was the only female there for a while. So always being the only female, it's like you have to be separated in some sense because female males, and it's kind of in a way to protect both, but it's also like hard to feel that camaraderie and feel like you actually belong when you have that separation. And so I think I struggled a lot with camaraderie, and then always like the sexual harassment was always there. So that
Yeah.
was annoying. And I've always been like,
I
I've I've never been like kind of like a lot of women could be like, well, fuck that, and like fight back and be a little bit more aggressive with it. And I was always more kind of timid and
passive.
shy. And I
Yeah.
was so young. I think I was just still learning how to stand up for myself. So I think that was a big challenge for me in the military.
You're probably like the kind that maybe just like chuckled it off and even though it probably was bugging you, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
can see that, that sucks. I mean, that part, that's the part that it always irks me to hear when, females go into a unit and they feel like a piece of meat or just, disrespected and not part of the actual team,
Yeah. And
because that does,
you have to be very careful about, should I report this or shouldn't I? Because you don't want to be like a troublemaker, or you don't want any like negative spotlight on you, especially when you're already like the only female. So it's like, yeah. So I mean, it's
yeah. And then you get put in the back, or you get put on all the shit details and they just force you to hate life. Um, Typically that's what happens when someone stands up for something. They get treated like shit for standing up for something that's right. So I do get that. And then I'm sure, I mean, now, uh, did you have guys that were like close to you too, kind of stuck up for you, or did that unit in particular was just a really rough unit to be with?
no, I think for the most part, everybody was pretty good. Um, I mean, there's definitely worse out there. There was some sexist guys, and you belong in the kitchen or the bedroom bullshit. There was a few events that were pretty messed up, um, especially looking back. But I just kind of like buried it while I was there. Um, and I remember when I first got to my unit, one of the corporals tried to like take me under his wing, and he was trying to befriend me and like help me. He'd be like, we'd be walking to the chow hall, and he'd be, quizzing me on Marine Corps knowledge and just trying to help me like learn the ropes, taking me under his wing. And maybe like 2 weeks later, we got called into the first sergeant's office for fraternizing. And so it was another one of those like divisive things where like,
Can't be a friend, or
can't be,
gets misconstrued, or yeah, bad perception.
yeah. So it's like you're just isolated even more. So,
Yeah, that's got to be rough. And I mean, it is, I think, too, when around your time, it was kind of new for the females to be in the combat zone and be in the front lines and stuff. It was still relatively kind of new.
mm-hmm.
And so I know that when you guys probably showed up to that unit, and you guys are getting plugged in with infantry guys who just train day in, day out at that time with nothing but males. They go to SOI, it's nothing but males, and they get in the fleet, it's predominantly males. And it sounds like for the deployment, they had to do this whole thing and make because they got into a region where they're like, oh crap, these ladies over here cannot be touched by other men, it's their culture and stuff. So it almost forced them to have to do this as well. But I mean, it sounds like it was needed, but it's hard because you guys were the beginning of that kind of transition, you know.
Yeah, I will say that my time with the grunts was amazing. Like the grunts that I was out there with, they were so respectful, and they treated me like a Marine. They, I carried my share the weight or whatever you want to call it. But like, I think that was my favorite time in the Marines. that because I actually felt like I was a Marine and I was actually out there making a difference. And I mean, yeah, when I was doing logistics, I was like, part of the, you know, one of the cogs in the machine that runs it or whatever. But like my time with those grunts was probably my favorite, and nobody was like inappropriate while
Oh, good.
we
Yeah.
were
Well,
out
because you know
there.
what? I would think that in that world, it's, you know, because you want to, everybody wants to go home, and you want to, and it's the big part about it is making sure you're doing your share, and people don't have to
The
pick up for
mission's
your slack,
priority.
you know.
Yeah,
What's that?
the mission's priority, and like
Right.
everybody coming home exactly. So there's no room for any bullshit.
Nah. Yeah. That's the nice part
Yeah.
about, I guess, going, forward, is that it's all about business, and there's no fuckery games there, and police calls and all this stuff you got to do when you're back in all the fuck games they do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we got back to Okinawa, and it's just like everybody just I mean, you're drinking, so alcohol always adds bullshit to the equation. Brings out the worst in some people, and a lot of jobs you don't really get to do unless you're in combat. So it's like you're just kind of there's more. What is it? Idle hands are the devil's handiwork. So there's more room for dumb shit to go down in garrison than
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, go on TikTok, you'll see a lot of these videos now, and it's just them just playing, doing a whole bunch of fuckery games and messing around. You give Marines and a large amount of them too much time, free time, and leave them alone. Something's gonna be destroyed. Someone's gonna be hurt. Something, who knows what you're gonna get. But so when you went back to Okinawa, how long were
Mhm.
you there? Did you do your full term there, or did you get stationed somewhere else in the state?
I met my future husband in Okinawa. And he was stationed in Beaufort, South Carolina. He was an air winger. And when I came up to my 2 years were over and it was time to PCS, I wanted to be where he was. So we weren't even married yet, but I got sent to Beaufort, and they don't even have my MOS there. So I was in the S4, and I was there for a year where we also got married. And we did end up getting divorced about 6 months after I got out. So that didn't last very long. But yeah, my last year in the Marine Corps was in Beaufort at the air station.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So let's go ahead and switch up the gears a little bit and talk
Okay.
about what you got going on now, and kind of your whole music career and all those types of things. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about mental health and all those type of things, because I know a lot of us, when we leave, we got a lot of mental health, and I think when we're young, we don't deal with all of it, and creates a lot of issues. And then when we get older, we're like, oh my gosh, like, wish I would have handled some stuff a long time ago. But I'm sorry, but let's
Yeah.
go ahead and get to know more about your music career and things of that nature.
Okay. Yeah, when I got out, um, there was a lot of traumatic events before, during, and after my military service. Um, that I don't really feel like going into details, but
Sure.
um, the when I got out, I got divorced, and that was tied into a traumatic event, and I kind of crashed. Like I was an alcoholic for most of 2010. Like I don't remember much of that year. Um, and then 2011, I went inpatient. Um, but
You were
it
just
wasn't a,
really a broken person. Yeah, at that time, you just were
yeah,
really broken. Yeah.
yeah,
Handling it with
I lost,
drinking.
yeah, and my dad's an alcoholic, and my grandma was too. So it's like already kind of in there, like predisposed.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I also knew how badly it could affect you and others, and I wanted to I remember sitting there. I was like, you can't do this. Like, this isn't who you are. But I went to inpatient in New York, and it was actually a civilian organization. It was their first time working with veterans, and they really didn't have their program hashed out. They didn't really understand military veterans' challenges very well.
Right.
I ended up leaving there before I was supposed to, and I went back to South Carolina, where my sisters lived, and that was 2012. And then I went out to Missouri, and I did a program called Focus Marines. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Mm-mm.
It's just like a week-long retreat for Marines, and I made friends out there, and they actually hired me on to do admin for them for a little while. But I was still really struggling with some things while I was out there, and I ended up going down to Texas for a 7-week women's MST treatment program in Texas, and I did that. I completed that, and it helped a little bit. You know, I feel like part of the healing journey is like there's no one fix for everything. You just kind of take little nuggets here and there as you go and do the best you can with them. And then I went back to Missouri, and I didn't really like Missouri, so I left there and went back to South Carolina in 2014. And I actually started to buy a sailboat, and I was going to live on a sailboat, and I was fixing it up. But the guy that I was buying it from ended up, like, there wasn't going to be an inboard engine because it needed parts from France or some crazy thing like that. So I was like, well, I don't want a 35-foot sailboat without an inboard engine. So I backed out of the deal, and I lost like a couple grand on that. But that was 2015, and I remember, like, music's always been really important to me, but I was always doing like karaoke because I love singing, and but that also ties into bars where you're drinking, and so it wasn't like a healthy outlet for me. And I remember Googling like music and veterans, and I found Creative Vets out in Nashville, and I applied for them, and I got accepted, and I actually went through their program in January or February of 2016. But while I was in Charleston in 2015. I took some of the songs that I'd written, and I didn't know how to play any instruments or anything. So all I had was like my lyrics and melody. And I went to a studio there, and it was my first time in the studio and kind of trying to work with that. And the guys there like made, like, they did all the instrumentals for my songs, and I never released them because I didn't like how they sounded. Um, but it was a good learning experience, and the guys there were awesome. Really good guys. It was like Oceans. No, not Oceans. I can't even remember the name of the studio anymore. It's been so long. Um, but yeah, so then I did the Creative Vets, and um, that kind of like got more into songwriting, and I got a guitar, and I wanted to start learning how to play guitar so I could start playing gigs and like having that healthier outlet for music instead of just like drunken karaoke. And then I actually also joined a group of veterans that hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2016. So it was kind of like a colliding of nature and music. And as I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, I carried a Martin backpacker, and I learned how to play guitar while I hiked the Appalachian Trail. And I wrote some of my first full songs, like where I'm playing guitar and I'm singing out on the trail. And when I got done with that, I went back to South Carolina for a little bit, and then decided to move to Colorado. I don't know if you can tell, but I travel a lot, and I've always been kind of a wanderer.
I do know that about you. A little bit of a gypsy, maybe.
Yeah, when we moved around so much when I was growing up, and then moving around the Marine Corps, and then it just always kind of felt more natural to me. And if I'm in one place for too long, I start feeling stagnant. I don't know. Not saying it's healthy or not. It just is what it is.
That's where you're at right now, right? I mean,
Yeah. So I just, nowhere has ever really felt like home. Like, I just, home is on the road. Not to be like cheesy, but Yeah, so I moved out to Colorado, and I lived in Colorado for like 4 years, and that's like the longest I'd lived anywhere since high school. And I played gigs while I was out there, and I started, really trying to hone my craft, like learn guitar and kind of get a feel for like the music business and like the music industry. And in 2020, I applied for Operation Encore, which I also Googled somehow. I don't remember how I found them. And I got accepted in 2020, and then COVID happened. And I moved back to South Carolina, and I lived with my sister for a little bit. And then I was tired of South Carolina, and I had dreamed about living in an RV for a long time just because I'd always traveled so much, and it was kind of like this. It sounded perfect for me. I wouldn't have to keep getting an apartment and keep moving all my stuff and doing all the deposits and everything, and just, you know, and then you're stuck in that place for a year because you signed a lease. So
Please, yeah.
I finally, like, it had never felt like it was like the right time, or I just couldn't afford it or whatever. So I finally just like bit the bullet, and I traded in my Jeep for a van. And then I drove down to Alabama where my aunt lives. And I stayed in her guest room and used her garage and built out my van. And it took me 4 months to build it out. And I got some help. There's an Army veteran, Logan. He's in West Virginia. It's called Mountaineer Van Works, and he actually helped. I drove up there, and he helped put in my fan and my bunk windows, and gave me this butcher block top, and taught me how to do all the electrical, and started me out. And that was really cool that he did that. So if anybody's looking for a van build, check out Mountaineer Van Works. It's a little
Heck
plug
yeah.
for him. But yeah, and then I drove back down to Alabama, and I finished the build. It was probably one of the hardest things I've done. I've never built anything in my life, and it's not perfect, but I love it because it's mine and I did it. And
Exactly. There's probably so much more appreciation, you know,
yeah, and
to
there's only
that.
been like 2 things that have broken, so and I've been able to
Well,
fix it.
you're handy. Now you're a handy woman.
I know when I started, I couldn't even work one of those electric drills. Like I kept holding it like this, and the bit kept falling out, and I couldn't figure out why. But it was because I was holding the front part. So I had to, it was a learning curve, and now I can work all. I know how to work a pocket hole drill, like all the things, jigsaw,
Yeah.
circular saw, table saw, all the saws.
Well, now that your house, dries and moves, you're definitely gonna have to learn real quick, and you never know when gonna have to fix something. You might have to pull over and fix it. So
Yeah, it's
definitely,
been a
I
huge
bet.
confidence builder with just being able to like, because like I never even knew how to put like windshield wiper fluid in your car. So I was like, I mean, it's not hard, but I never knew how to do it or where it was. So
Right. Well, shoot, man, people could take their cars to you now.
no,
Not there yet. She's like,
no.
no.
But
Not
yeah,
putting
so
it
I've been
out there.
driving around, and I left Alabama May of 2021. No, 2022. Yes, May of 2022. I left Alabama, and I started heading west. I went through Texas, and then up to Oklahoma and over to Colorado. And I spent like a month in Colorado, um, maybe even almost 2 months, because I was on the Front Range, and I caught up with all my old friends, and I played a bunch of gigs. And then I just went out into the mountains and just explored, and I, played random gigs that I came across out there. Um, like there was a lodge in Cimarron. It's called Arrowhead Lodge, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's like 10,000 feet. And I went out there and I played, and I kept getting encores, and I ended up playing for like 7 hours.
You are literally a modern day gypsy.
And
Like,
I think my favorite part, because talking about mental health, like when I was in an apartment, it was very easy for me to, hide away, and I could shut my door and not talk to anybody for 2 weeks and nobody would know. So it's like I was a hermit, and the depression would set in and it would get worse. But with van life, it's like I'm forcing myself out into the world, and I'm like constantly moving. I'm constantly meeting people. I'm constantly like in the world. So it's funny that everybody seems to think that my van life is me running away and like hiding. And I'm like, I'm more social in the last year and a half than I have been like the last 10 years. So it's been really good for me in that sense. And I've met so many cool people on the road, and I have friends everywhere now. So it's been pretty amazing in that sense. And then just the freedom, like I can pick up and go. And yeah, I can go off into the woods for a week if I want to, if I need to recharge. But then I just go right back and I explore new places and meet new people. And I've been in Alaska since June 2nd, which is funny because like my first summer, I spent a lot of time in Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, which Glacier National Park is still my favorite place ever. I don't know what it is. Alaska's beautiful too, but like when I was in Glacier, it's like literally my soul comes more alive. I don't know. It sounds really cheesy, but
Okay, so you kind of answer, maybe you answered my question. I was going to say, out of all the places you've traveled, what's your absolute favorite? That's,
Glacier,
yeah.
yeah, I love Glacier National Park. It's still my favorite. Alaska's pretty close, and I love Colorado. And I still haven't made it to much of the West Coast. Like I haven't done van life on the West Coast at all yet. I've been to the West Coast, just not in van life. But I've kind of been avoiding it because the gas prices are a lot higher over there, and
Yeah.
I, I was gonna go there this time around, but I had to cut a leg of my trip off for time. I didn't have time to go
What's that?
that way. So maybe I'll go there this winter, this fall or winter. I I'm really still learning how to best plan ahead and how to plan my gigs along the trek, um, and balancing like van life adventuring with music. And I've been here since June 2nd. I drove up. I feel like I'm losing track of my last summer. I was in Montana, and then I went back down and I spent the holidays with family. And then I did an apprenticeship in Nashville for 4 months. So it was really hard for me to be stuck in Nashville for 4 months because I wanted to keep adventuring. Um, but I made good friends, and I was able to connect with, Rachel Hill. She's with Operation Encore, so I was able to like actually spend time, and I feel like she's one of my good friends now. So that was really cool. And I met her family, and they're awesome. But I left Nashville in April, and I actually got this opportunity in Alaska through Operation Encore because we did a songwriting retreat in Georgia last October, and Otts Kilcher and Jim Anderson came out there and invited a bunch of us out to Alaska for this summer. We spent like 10 days. So I'd already wanted to do a trip to Alaska in the van, and that was kind of like prompted me to like, yes, this is where you should go this summer. And so I left Nashville and I went down. I visited family. So it was like my second cross country trip because I went to North Carolina to the Outer Banks, which was beautiful. I definitely want to go back there because I didn't get to see the wild horses. But then I went down to South Carolina and Alabama and then back through Texas. And this time I got to go to Phoenix, which was my first time in Arizona. And I fell in love with Sedona. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. The whole area up there, Sedona, it was my first time in Grand Canyon. I want to go back to that area because I didn't get to go to um, Horseshoe Bend, is it called? And I drove like by Bryce Canyon area, and I was like, okay, I'm coming back here because I wanted to spend more time. But the colors are just vibrant and beautiful, and it's a really pretty area. And then I drove up through Utah, and I visited friends in Salt Lake City and played a little music. And then I went up to Montana, and I went back to Glacier because I love it there, and I played a little music. And then I drove through Canada, and I got to cross off a bucket list item at Banff National Park and Lake Louise. And I took 10 days to drive through Canada. What is that?
Is that your music?
No,
I have no clue where it's coming from. I keep hearing
no,
that once in a while.
it's coming out of my phone, but yeah.
Is that
I
out of
mean,
your phone?
it's not my phone playing. Let's
That
see.
is so weird.
Yeah, no, it's not mine.
I have no idea where that is from or what that is coming from. my gosh, that's crazy. That's the second time I've heard a song come through, and I didn't know if it was just on your end or my end. That
It's
all
like that
right.
weird thing. You have like the what is it? The fillings in your mouth that pick up radio stations. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I knew what it was going like, "Is it worth it?" I was like, "Dang, okay." Uh,
I'm changing
shoot,
genres.
circle up in here, shoot. I thought maybe that was your ringtone. I was like, "Okay, Barbara, alright."
I
Uh,
know.
alright, so
My
sorry we
ringtone is
got a little uh, but,
but yeah,
let's see some pictures of actually Alaska since you made it up there.
it was
I
I
kinda
wasn't sure.
pulled some pictures out. Let's see, let's look, talk about them a little bit.
Yeah. So this was my most recent little trek. It was a boat ride. My friend Anna got me a seat on Discovery tour boat with Captain Victoria, and they took us out to Seldovia, which is you can only get to this town via boat or airplane. It's across the Kachemak Bay from Homer,
Wow,
kind of
that's really cool.
down. Yeah, and this is just little islands kind of out there. I can't tell you the names of the islands. I'm not a local, but they all have names. But it's just so beautiful. Yep,
It
that's
is
Saldovia.
really beautiful there.
Yeah, and this was
It's
low
more of that
tide.
town.
So you can see
Ah,
where it's low tide and then like the water comes up. And we're standing on a bridge right there.
okay. That's
Yeah,
cool.
and that's just out in the Kachemak Bay. I think we're looking at there's some glaciers. There's like ice fields and glaciers all along the back of that mountainous area right there. Which I'm going to be hiking this week or next. I'm going to get a boat ferry over to hike Gruant Glacier. I'm excited.
That's so
And then
cool.
this is Seagull Island, and this is like where all the birds go to have babies.
Oh,
Like if we got pictures of like all the little babies that had just hatched. All,
ah,
like there's seagulls, and I can't even remember all the names of the birds that are hanging out on that island. But it's called Seagull
how
Island.
cool.
A lot of seagulls. Yeah, and then
So
some
cool.
of these rock formations, when we got really up close, it was really cool. It's like geologists from all over the world would come to like check it out. Like millions of years of just, I think it was like lava, and there's like three different types of rocks that are unusually formed together there. Um, it was really cool if you
That's
like geology. Oh, this is the one. Yeah, that's the one that has. If you look on the very tip, the black part, that's the lava, and then there's like red rock. And then if you zoom in on the photo, you can see like really cool like designs in the rock from it all being mushed together.
that's so cool.
Not a scientist. That's a sea otter. There's so many sea otters. It's
A
really cool.
sea otter. Nice.
I haven't seen any whales yet, so hopefully soon.
No? Well, so how long are you out in Alaska?
I'm
What's
here to
your
the end of August, so I'm gonna be
end of
leaving.
August?
Yeah, I wanted to spend all summer, and I probably would stay longer, but I'm going to Hero Stock. Are you gonna be there?
Absolutely. I am
Yay!
going to be there. I'm flying out. I'm gonna be there the 8th through the 10th. I'll be there that whole weekend.
Well, it better be amazing because I'm leaving Alaska early to make it there.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be amazing. It's gonna, yeah. Trust
I'm
me, I'm
sure.
not flying all the way out there for it not to be amazing either. I'll make it amazing. But I don't know if Nebraska's ready for me to be
Well,
out there. You know what I mean? I don't know if they don't know if they're ready
there's a lot
for
of
the Green
cool people
Canyons.
converging in Ashland, Nebraska. But yeah, so I'm leaving here the end of August. My last gig is the 26th, and then I want to drive up to Talkeetna so I can see Denali because I can't come to Alaska and not see Mount Denali. And then I'm gonna go up to Fairbanks, and um, and then I'm gonna go back over and drive back through Canada.
Is
It's
Canada
beautiful.
rough? Because I
It's
mean, you kind of glazed over Canada. You talked about a lot of places, but I
um,
imagine you had to drive through Canada for a minute.
Canada is beautiful. I took 10 days to go through. I went through Banff National Park, which was beyond what I imagined it would be. It was so beautiful. Thankfully, when I went through, gas prices were like really decent, like cheaper than I expected. So I spent less money than I thought I was gonna on gas. It wasn't hard to find camping. Everybody was really nice. Um, I don't know. It was funny. It was funny getting all the warnings about going through Canada and then actually experiencing it. I enjoyed it. Um, and then I went through the Yukon. I didn't have any service, but then what got really rough, 2 days of no service kind of made me nervous because I was like, if something goes down in these 2 days, like, I don't have a plan. I'm just going to sit here and wait for somebody to drive by and hopefully it's a nice person, you know? So I need to have a better plan,
Gosh.
better safety plan. But when I went through the Yukon, it was otherworldly. Like parts of the Yukon, like I was like, I could stay here for however long. I posted some of those pictures, I think, or maybe it was a story that I did, but it was like this turquoise, shallow lake, and part of it was like dried up, and like the wind was blowing this white sand, and then right behind that was like these snow-covered mountains. It felt like a convergence of worlds. It was beautiful, and it was like not too hot, not too cold. So, and it was really pretty, and that was in the Yukon. And then once I hit, I think it was Lake Watson. That's when the road got really rough, and there's all these snow drifts from when the ice melts and it like pushes the cement up or the concrete, whatever, I don't know, asphalt. It like pushes it up, and so there's like these dips and everything in the road.
You're sitting there like
And
this whole time.
yeah, and everybody warned me about them, but the first time I hit one, I didn't see it in time, and the whole van just went like this, and I was so sure I was going to tip over, but I didn't. Yay! But yeah, so then I was like driving really slow, and then the road just got really rough, like potholes, and you can't even like enjoy the scenery because you're like dodging potholes. But so from like I think it was like Lake Watson, and then oh my gosh, I forgot the name of the town already. It was like the last main town in the Yukon. It'll come to me later. Anyway, and then I got to Tok, Alaska, and that's kind of when the roads got a little bit better. But that's the only thing that was really rough because it's like you're fighting your steering wheel with crosswinds because it's just like wide open, like it's the wilderness for a lot of the time. You just look out and all you see, there's like no civilization. It's just wilderness, which is really cool and really scary. And you're fighting crosswinds, and then you're battling snowdrifts and dodging potholes. So it just can get kind of exhausting. It'd be nice to have like
Wow.
a driving partner to like take turns, like trade
Yeah,
off your
man,
turn.
that's gotta be rough. So you must not, I mean, either A, you get adequate enough sleep because I know driving for maybe like 6 hours or something like that, I'd be wanting to like conk out after a while. You,
Yeah, and
you have any
I have
issues driving on the road, or you try to stay off the road during the nights?
well, didn't get really dark once I got up into Canada because it was like, Canada kind of has that same like longer days the more north you go. But I don't like to drive at night, especially in cities because of the glare from all the lights. Um,
Yeah.
but out on, back roads and like places that aren't very congested, it's not as bad because you're not like getting the constant headlights in the eyes. But yeah, and I try not to drive like I talk to people who drive like 16-hour shifts, and I'm like, I can't do that. Like I plan out my route where I'm usually driving like 8 to 9 hours each section, and then I'll stop and camp and like I stopped in the Art Hot Springs for like 2 days, and I was like soaking in the hot springs. I'm like, yeah.
Oh hell yeah. Sheesh.
But, but I also have rheumatoid arthritis, and so my joints get really stiff and sore. So I'm constantly like stopping and stretching and taking Advil because I'm apparently old now. But
Yeah, I know that life, unfortunately, too. But
yeah, but
how
it's like
awesome
you
is
can't
that
let
though?
like that stop you. You just adjust
Nah,
around and like
that's right.
find
You just
work
work
with
through
it.
it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know, you gotta sit there and massage your hand to open it up once in a while or something because I definitely understand.
yeah,
But so like about Alaska, I've always wanted to go to Alaska.
yeah.
Now the days and all that stuff, like you said, the longer days. How was that for you? And have you ever been to Alaska before this, or this was your first time ever being in Alaska?
This is my first time here. I've dreamt about it for a long time. Um, But yeah, the constant day was very disorienting, and it still is kind of. But you get a little bit more used to it. Um, but my van's also very well like I have all these like
You can
things
black it out pretty well.
I
Yeah.
blacked out, and then like I have this blackout curtain that
Oh
goes
yeah,
across
nice.
the cab area. So when I want it to be, it's pretty dark in here, so I can sleep well. And then you just set alarms when you want to wake up, so you're not sleeping all day.
You're like,
But it's also really cool
what
because
time
like
is it?
I don't know if you saw my post about my ocean dip, but I was like swimming in the ocean at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
felt like day.
yeah. That's so cool. I just, I mean, I think it would throw me off. And so, how do you just like eventually start telling yourself like, all right, I need to probably go to bed. It's like 10 p.m. right now.
It sneaks
I
up on
mean,
you. You can fit a
or
lot
you
more
just,
into your day,
yeah,
and if you're out there
yeah,
adventuring,
I'm
you're
sure.
just like, oh yeah, or like especially like if you go out to dinner or you go out for drinks, and you're like, oh, it's still daylight, I got time. But then you look at your watch and it's like 11 p.m. and you're like, oh no,
Oh no,
oh
went a
no.
little hard tonight.
Yeah, so it can be
That's too crazy.
uh, crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah, that would be a bad place, like for like a Las Vegas to be at or something. I mean, Las Vegas doesn't need help with daylight. People go in the casinos and walk out and it's sun. Walk in when it's sunny and walk out when it's sunny. But
Yeah,
like, gosh, dang, the amount of partying. Do they still close things down like normal hours, or do they kind of keep it open, or does everybody kind of treat night like night there, or is it kind of different the
yeah,
atmosphere?
and especially it's like a small town, so I think most places close around 8 or 9 p.m. And then just like anywhere, there's like a few late night places. Um, I remember when I went up to Anchorage, um, and I played that gig with Schaefer, Schaefer Mueller. We played that
Oh
gig.
yeah.
Um,
Happy's my
before
one of my
that,
favorite songs right now.
which one's that?
Happy, his song
Oh,
"Happy."
Happy. Yeah, he's
Yes.
got good ones. But yeah, he played that festival. He opened for Chris Young, and after he played, a group of us went out on the town in Anchorage, and I'd only been there for what, a month already, and I was still kind of getting used to the
You had like
time.
Shannon Book out there, JB Brown, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we were all at the head of the.
a wild bunch of people.
No,
Uh,
we were in the wilderness, so we didn't go like out in the town. Uh,
okay. Well, that's lucky
it
for
was
the
really cool. Yeah,
town.
we were running chainsaws and chopping down trees and like four wheeling through the mud and
Oh, hell
going
yeah.
hiking. We went hiked out to we crossed a river on a little boat, and we hiked up through a valley or a field out to an old homestead cabin, and then we like sat by the river and played music. It was
Wow.
really, it was
That
amazing.
is cool. Yeah, what an opportunity. And
Yeah,
opportunity for you guys to connect and get to know each other.
yeah,
And
it was
that
really
group of people,
special.
I'm
And
sure you guys all really got to know each other really well.
yeah, it was really special to get to share that experience with the group that was out here.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
great.
what is that?
You hear that again, right?
Yeah, like people talking.
Whoa.
No,
Okay. What is this? What is
gotta,
going on?
you
The
gotta.
aliens, like, okay, so they just talked about aliens. Like, I mean, what's going on here? They this is
They're
that's
hijacking.
crazy.
I think the
Every
aliens have
once in a while.
for a long time already. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. They're here. They need elements that they don't have wherever else. They got, you know.
They say blue-eyed people are descendants from aliens.
Uh-oh, look. Uh, she likes to travel too, people, and she likes to be on her own.
That's right.
So yeah, you're gonna make your way up to Hero Stock. That's exciting. And then
Yeah,
from there, what is your plans? You got any? I mean, you got to like kind of budget this all out, plan it all out, make sure you got the funds aligned and all that stuff, and make sure you always have a place to go, a place to stay. So, are you
yeah,
kind of
that's
doing
what I,
research before you leave? Is that your deal, or how do you kind of prepare yourself for the next destination?
yeah. So I've been kind of doing like 2 to 4 weeks at a time. Like I'll make a general plan for the month, and then it kind of shifts like week to week.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
once
like
you kinda get into one of the plans, it's like, "Oh, well, this one's now turning into this now."
you got to be very flexible and just kind of ride the waves sometimes. So that's been fun too, though. Like it's kind of my vibe. Like I just like to wing it, but I do like to have a general plan. And right now, my general plan is leaving here the end of August, going back through Canada to Stock by the 9th. And then after that, I got to be in Philly by the 16th for the Vet Fest that I'm playing. And then after that, I have like no plans. Like I have no idea what I'm doing after September 16th. Like I don't know what my fall or my winter looks like. Um, I sent out a few messages today to kind of get some feelers out for maybe. I might meander down the East Coast and visit some family. But then I want to go see my friend in Colorado because she just had a baby and I want to meet her baby before it's like 5 years old because they grow so fast.
I know they're doing a big event, Vets for Life, in South Carolina,
Yeah.
October-ish timeframe, so if you're in the East Coast around there, be probably a good event to go check out, with Sean Laurie's group, Vets for Life. They're, doing a lot of different events. On September 9th, they're actually doing something in Texas as well
Nice.
the same day, but, yeah,
Yeah. So
check that
that's,
out.
I'm always down for like, throw me any ideas, any events that need some music or any events in general where I can just hang out and camp and meet people and connect.
Yeah,
That's been
absolutely.
my main focus for my van life is so my secret recipe for success or for my personal mental health has been music, nature, and God. Because I went through a program in 2017 called Advancing Warriors, and it helped me reconnect with God. And you know, with all the trauma, I've had a lot of sexual trauma, and finding my worth and and things like that was a big obstacle for me. So in 2017, when I went through that, I was able to reconnect and find a really good community where I could talk about that kind of stuff, um, and rebuild that confidence and that self worth. And so God's been a major player in my healing, and He is the
That's
one true
right.
healer, right? So He's the only one that can truly heal me where I need to be healed. So God, and then nature, because everybody feels better outside, right? Or is I don't know anybody. I've never met anybody that didn't feel better by going outside.
You know, a lot of people, though, that don't deal with their traumas or their stresses tend to keep themselves super busy or always surrounded by other people, can't do things alone, don't like to be alone.
Mm,
Um, you have been put in a position where you're driving alone. You know, maybe you got the radio here and there, but there's those
yeah,
places that you hit where there's just absolutely shit for service unless you got to record it on your playlist. But you have that a lot of time to self reflect, deal with some things. I mean, I know sometimes loneliness it can be really bad too. It depends on
yeah,
your surroundings, but sometimes when you're by yourself, you're forced to deal with things because your mind is more open to it because you're not just bombarded by so many different things. So, I mean,
yeah,
that's a great thing, I guess. In part of your healing is traveling and music and nature. It's all been a great thing for you.
yeah.
Disconnecting.
Well, I think being alone is a choice, and loneliness, I kind of think of it as not a choice. So when you're alone, like I enjoy being alone. It's how I recharge. It's where I find my balance. And then loneliness is when you don't want to be alone and you miss that connection with people. And so you can make choices to combat the loneliness, finding a good community and good like healthy friendships and relationships to combat that loneliness. But I think being alone it's good for me in that sense, which I've always been kind of happier alone. But it's also something that I'm working on in some ways too. Is that when I'm by myself, I feel very even keeled. I feel confident. I feel happy, relaxed. And then when I'm trying to being in like groups of people, I that energy kind of throws me off, so I feel a little off kilter. And so learning to keep that peace and that balance in the midst of being in a group of people and not letting other people's opinions and voices kind of
Make
throw
you
me off.
feel some kind of way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
get
that,
it, and it is a hard thing to get, especially when we live in a very judgmental society. Um, and always keeping up with the Joneses or anything like those type of things. I mean, we have a lot of societal pressures as human beings.
mhm.
It makes it hard, and yeah, in trying to learn that, and this is something that's just happened to me as of recent too, is learning that it's not anybody else's responsibility for my happiness. My happiness is from me and within. I could be happy in any situation or be upset about any situation, depending how we handle it as human beings. But
Yeah.
being able to get to the healthier spot in your life and kind of have a clear space in your head makes things so much easier to deal with. And in reaction is another thing. I can see my reaction is so much better now since I've been able to kind of work on some of my things that have created my 0 to 60 or whatever. Now I'm starting to learn more of, like, no, don't just react on impulse, because sometimes we can be volatile right off rip when we react to something.
Yeah.
And reactions create action, and whichever way you react, it can create some kind of action. It could go really
Hmm.
bad or it could go really good, based off how you react to a scenario, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. It's important to find that inner peace and balance, which I find through my relationship with God. And like, as I build my confidence back up and my self esteem, and I'll be less affected by, other people's opinions or voices. And so the more you work on that inner self, the inner work, the less likely you will be affected by those outer forces. And
Right, and
yeah,
you can give everybody the best version of you,
exactly.
and whether they like it or not, doesn't matter, and you get to a point in life where you can start laughing at yourself and start, having a good time with your own self, you know, who cares what everybody else thinks, like, you can laugh at your own jokes. It doesn't matter, you're having a good time, and we live with ourselves the most, right?
And not everybody,
There's no escaping ourselves, so we
not
gotta love
everybody
ourselves.
trauma that oh, excuse me. Not everybody deals with trauma the same either. Like
Right.
some people do really well alone. Some people
Yep.
don't do really well alone.
Yep.
Like when I'm by
Yep.
myself, like I'll dance, I'll act silly, I'll be goofy, I'll whatever. But then like when I'm around other people, I wouldn't dance in front of people for a long, long time because of the insecurities that would build up. And which is really funny because I just danced with one of my friends the other night and we just had a good
If you
time and
wanna
we
gain some securities, watch some of my videos, and I'm in there just I mean, I've been on
didn't.
my wacky Wednesdays and no one's showing up, and I'm in there listening to music and just dancing, and I'm you know, I've even been on TikTok and people and they're just talking crap about me because 'cause I'm just in there like, boom, boom, having a good time. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if you ever wanna, feel better about yourself, watch some of my videos.
No, because then it's still comparison. But I did find like when you were saying like happiness, like there is definitely that like, and this goes back to like my faith, is that joy and peace that you feel that's found through God. And happiness to me is just a fleeting emotion. Like, and I think there's a lot of like, I guess people are calling like toxic positivity these days, where like if you're not happy all the time, you're failing at life. But I think it's important to know that you can be happy and you can be sad, and it's just part of life. It's like depending on the day, depending on the circumstances or things that happen to you, but that inner joy and peace comes from God, and that can't be shaken if you build that relationship with Him.
Yeah,
And so, just understanding that, like, you can still have that inner joy and peace, and then still have days where I'm not happy today, like,
yeah.
but that's okay.
Like, I'm not to throw my wife's, business out there too much, but, like, today, she's having a rough day and, a little emotional. I just went and hugged her and gave her a big, hug and told her I love her and said, "You know what? It's okay. You're
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to have a bad day, but we'll get through it and it's all gonna be good." You know what I mean? But it's okay to cry. It's okay to have those emotions.
Hmm.
We'll work through them. You know what I mean? And we'll get past it. And that kind of stuff. I think, in the way I see it is we didn't have a bad day all day. Once I kind of said that to her, I think that kind of turned her around, like, oh, and so it's just good for us as people to sometimes realize, hey, you know what? It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
But the where it gets to be unhealthy is when you can't get out of that being
When you
okay,
hold on to it. Yeah. I was
right?
just
And
about
you
to
just
say,
and you're lingering on and you're stuck.
yeah.
That's when it's not healthy. But it is healthy for us to go through things and for us to have trials, tribulations. That sometimes builds characters in who we are and makes
Mhm,
us great people for later on and makes us advocates for other people's, makes us
mhm,
a voice for someone else to say, oh shit, look at them, they're doing this, they're okay, it's not that bad, because I assure you, I can show you my heap of shit of stuff that I've been through in my life, but I'm not going to allow that to define me, and that's not going to be my end story. you know how we begin doesn't need to be how we end,
exactly.
and we can we all have that ability to create and make those paths that we want to go down. We can make those choices as people. We don't have to go down the same path as everybody else because our
Mhm,
path may not look like their path. And that's okay. We don't all need to have the same paths.
yeah.
That doesn't mean you're any less of a person if you're not in the same path as someone else, or you're not on the same hierarchy or whatever. That
Mhm.
that doesn't define us as humans.
And that's going back to the comparison is the thief of joy. And our society like pushes that so hard, especially with social media. Like you see everybody's perfect life on social media and you just,
Yeah.
that's real.
Yeah, and for instance, and I hate to say it, but it's like just recently, one of my wife's good friends and husband went through a nasty divorce, and it's now all over Facebook. But for all the years, it's just every picture has always been, "Wow, what happened? They look so happy." Yeah, well, that's because we know them on Facebook. But I mean, and anything looks good on a snip or a quick little 15-second reel or whatever. We can make ourselves all look a certain way. And
Yeah.
then as soon as that camera goes off, it could be like, "Fuck you, bitch," you know what I mean, or whatever. It could just
Yeah.
the flip the switch type thing, I mean, what people sometimes see on here is they think it's all so real, and they think that they go and glamorize or uh, get so excited about some of these people, and they absolutely know nothing about them. There's been some of these TikTok famous people that are murderers that have been found as murderers. You know what I mean? It's just, and these people out there are, glorifying them, saying, "Oh, they're awesome." Yeah, well, we can all do that and make ourselves, but you know, it's not always real what you see in those little snippets.
It's edited. And I will say, like,
Yeah.
if you look at my Instagram, you see all these adventures and pretty photos and things like that. But even here in Alaska, I've had old shit bubbling up that I've had to deal with again. I'm like, man, I thought I put that to rest. And I've had bouts of depression. And I'm like, you can be in the most beautiful location and depression can still find you. So it's that's another thing where it's like happiness isn't a location or it's that source of joy that I have to like keep reconnecting to. And it's a daily choice. Like not only daily choice to like follow Jesus and not the world, it's a daily choice to be self-aware. Um, you know, it's okay to like have sad days, like we said, but um, yeah, going back to that, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but it's okay.
Nope.
It's a constant, it's a journey, it's a constant lesson. You're constantly growing and changing and having different obstacles or different challenges, or yeah. And some things are hard to work through, and you have to keep coming back to them. I think I was talking to my friend Anna yesterday. I was like, it's like you work on it a little bit and then you think you have it under control. And then like a year later, you got to work on it a little bit more. And part of me thinks that's like our brain's way of like protecting us because if you, some of the things you've been through, like if you had to deal with it all at once, it'd be so overwhelming. So it's just, it's that journey. It's little stepping stones and it doesn't always look how you think it would look.
No, I mean, and I think that we are always work in progress. I think that as long as we are here, we're always work in progress, and we can always learn something from the next person too. Because there's just, I don't think that anybody could just know everything in this world. There's just so much knowledge, so much things, you know. Um, but
It's so important to have compassion, like compassion for others, but also like self compassion.
yep,
Because I think, especially in the military veteran world, like people are so hard on themselves if they're not doing well. They're like beat each other up. They beat themselves up. They're like, man, I'm weak. I'm like, I've even come across veterans that are like, PTSD isn't real. You're just weak minded. I'm like, no, my friend. It's a chemical change in your body, and it's part of the brain's way of like,
I
it's
wish
an
it was. I fucking wish it was some bullshit. I wish it was. I wish it was a switch I could throw off. I wish I didn't feel sharp pains down my feet and my arms and, you know, those types of things when it happens. And I don't, you know, I'm not like asking for, you know, those kind of things. Yeah. I mean, it, I think that we are,
It's looking so good.
there it is again.
Check your guess.
this is wild.
So glad you made it. It looks amazing. I'm so excited.
She's so excited.
Where is this coming from? Like
What were you watching before you started?
nothing. I don't think I have anything on. Let me make sure. I mean, that is so like you would think that if it was something from my phone that it would constantly be going.
Yeah, but it's like coming and going.
Yeah, like this
I wonder, like,
it's kind of
whatever.
interesting,
Yeah, you're like picking up some kind of like random signal from somewhere.
right? Like I'm wondering if the Bluetooth on here is just like maybe one of my kids or something. Who knows? My daughter is home from college, so
Maybe.
she's always on TikTok and stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised. But hey, let's go ahead and listen to some of your music real quick and I'd love to listen to this song "Long Way Home." It's one of my favorites. I have several, but this one in particular is one of my favorites. So go ahead and get that playing. Get some.
Yeah. That one was written because someone told me that I really should be doing better by now. And I was like, well, I guess I'm taking the long way there. Because it takes long.
Can you hear it?
A little bit.
We'll stop spinning just past midnight. New town just for the night. Taking some time to be on my own. I'm not running, I'm feeding my soul. I'm taking it all.
Wait, this
Never be settled this wandering soul. Way home. Taking a detour, taking some time to think. Hold on tight, it's gonna be a wild trip. Taking the long way. Find the quiet places to stop. Between the stretches of black time, little corners of the world where I've never been before. I'm taking the long way home. Not ready to settle this wandering. I'm taking the long way home. Taking a detour, taking some time to think. Hold on tight, it's gonna be a wild trip. Taking the long way home. Forget about what's left behind. Don't worry about what lies ahead. Discover a new side of life, a little at a time. taking the wrong way home. Not ready to settle, just wondering. Taking the wrong way home. Taking the wrong way home. Taking the wrong way home. Taking the taking the wrong way. Taking the wrong way.
All right. That right there was Barabara Sim taking the long way home. All right.
Yeah.
If you guys would like to check her out, go check her out on Spotify, Apple Music, all those places. Go check her out, download her music, give her some love, support. Also, we play her all the time on the Gun Room Radio. So go check out the Gun Room Radio where we play nothing but veteran musicians just like Barabara Sim.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was I love that song. I love that song and Rev It Up. Definitely are my favorites right now. Let's see. Take all this down. All right, there we go. Sheesh.
Yeah.
There we are.
Hopefully
All right.
hopefully it recorded better than what I could hear on my end.
It sounded
very
super
broken.
clear over here. So yeah, hopefully it did. I definitely sounded clear on my end. It might have been coming around a little rough on your end, but
Yeah.
hopefully, yeah. Because
I
definitely
have like 3 bars, so it's probably my phone.
yeah, it might be 'cause on this side everything's showing good, and you're not coming across choppy or nothing either. So
Nice.
it's that Alaska Wi-Fi out there, huh?
Yeah, some places are better than others, but it's definitely hit or miss. And I need to get a better Wi-Fi thing. I really want to get that Starlink because that's like, I hear that's really, really good. So eventually I'll get that.
Put it on the to get list, huh?
There's so many items on the to get list. Number one,
How do you
fire.
get your mail and stuff like that? Do you just do a PO box, or you just whenever you want something mailed, you just like mail it to this person over here?
Yeah, so you can either do a PO box or sometimes you can get it mailed directly to a UPS store in your area if you know you're going to be there for a while, which I've done a few times. And then like my main mail goes to my sister's house, and she like just checks my mail for me and then sends me anything important.
Nice.
So that's
So
been helpful.
with your music, do you got any big plans for? Are you working on any songs?
Yeah.
Where you at with that journey?
I'm always working on new songs, but I'm trying to save up because, recording costs. So I'm just trying to get a good collection of songs that I want to do like an EP or something, and then maybe do like one of those fundraiser things. Like, what is it? I can't remember what it's called anymore. It's like this thing that musicians use, and they raise money for their upcoming album, and then their fans get.
Really? Okay, that's cool. I never even heard of that.
Just can't remember the name of. There's like a bunch of different kinds, but I'm blanking on all of the names of them right now.
It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you want to tell us? Any I forgot, or any words of encouragement for anybody out there?
Oh man, on the spot. Yeah, I'm still working on my story, like telling my story, talking about myself and like my life, and especially the hard stuff is very challenging, but I think it's important. And I'm just working on more and more just putting my story out there and hopefully inspiring others to know they're not alone and that there's healing to be had and community and just joy to be found. There is more life after service and more meaningful and joyful life after service. And so don't give up and find those healthy relationships and friendships and have a little self-compassion and grace for yourself.
I love it. Well, Barbara, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, talk with us, tell talk about some of the tough things. It's not always easy to talk about stuff, but like you said, there's people out there that can always learn from us. It'd be a shame for us all just to harbor all our knowledge and not let others, have an opportunity to learn from it and not have to go down the same path as us, or if they are in that path, find a healthier way to get out of it. Because some of us, when we see something broke, we would just want to fucking break it all the way, and or just keep breaking it even more. And then sometimes after the dust settles, you start to realize, oh my gosh, so much damage has been done. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate your coming on, having the courage to talk to us, and I would love to have you on future and talk to you
Anytime.
again, and hopefully can't wait to meet you at Hero Stock. So
I'll be there.
yeah, I'm excited for that. It's going to be a good time. Beat you in some cornhole, and we'll have some
Hey, I've
good time.
been practicing lately, so I feel
Oh
like
snap!
yeah,
Okay,
I almost won the last game I played.
shit. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. I'm all challenged. She's like, "Yeah, I've been sitting here practicing, fool." uh, all right,
You'll be
Barbara. Well, thank you again, and I love listening to your music. I'm glad I get to play it on the Gunroom Radio, and thanks again. And I hope you have an amazing trip back home and be safe.
Thank you. We'll be in touch, or I'll be in touch.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Barbara. You just hold tight. I'll be back with you 1 second.
Okay.
All right. Well, all right, friends and fam, that wraps up another great interview. Barbara Sim, she is an amazing person. She's a Marine. How much more amazing does it get than that? I can't tell you. Maybe I'm a little biased, but go check out her music. Once again, Barbara Sim Music. Go check her out on Spotify, Apple Music, all those platforms that play music. Give her a listen. She is an amazing person. Give her as much support as you can. But I hope you all have an amazing day out there. Make sure it's not kicking your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking its ass. Until next time. Arr.